The Blazblue Roguelike game is honestly one of the best action roguelikes I've played in recent years. I've made guides for this game in the past, but they've done multiple updates since then, so I want to make an updated new player guide for 2025 and beyond. This guide will be in two main parts. The first thing we'll do is go over the systems in the game to help you understand how the game works and different options you may want to turn on. Then we'll talk about making and using your Evo type, that's the different characters in the game, to actually win a run. So let's go ahead and get started with the systems. Tip number one, like any action roguelike, BB is what we're going to call this, has difficulty settings. You start off in normal mode, and if you're struggling here and want a more casual experience, you can actually reduce the difficulty even further by changing some of the monster parameters. Once you get your win and progress a little bit in the story, you can begin to add to the entropy meter. You don't have to max this out too early. In fact, the game rewards you for climbing through the ranks as you go. These ranks don't just make the game harder, they add a bunch of new mechanics and buffs for every 5 levels of entropy. There's also brand new mechanics such as the Black Market, Covenant, and Trials that start as early as entropy 0. And then for every 5 levels after that, you get refreshes, more potentials, rarity increases, and a bunch of other stuff on top of unlocking more currency for different things in the game. Speaking of currency, tip 2, the most important thing you can do as a new player is to open up the Mind Crystal implants. Not that the game is completely unplayable without these, but just like any other roguelite with a T, the difference between having no perks and some perks is honestly night and day. Your primary focus should be on healing elixirs, which are like health potions, as by default they don't heal for very much. I would recommend increasing the amount they heal and also the number of elixirs per run. There's also Escape Death in here, which will revive you the first time you take fatal damage. With just those 3, we're already 3 out of 6 available implants. Everything else from here is personal preference. But one thing I want to point out is the combo counter and kill streaks. Since the combat in BB is very combo-centric, you are rewarded by doing combos, especially if you take an implant like these. You'll get bonus damage or even heal yourself just for playing the game. You can find that combo counter and kill streak at the bottom of the screen here. On that note about healing, tip 3 is that whenever you see percent HP on a buff or a debuff or a cost to do something, they're usually referring to the individual bars of HP. Each pip is 10%. So if you see something that says it heals for 60%, it'll give you back 6 bars of HP, regardless of how much your max HP is. As far as I know, the only exception to this is Ragna, who has different attacks that cost a percent of his current life. So 90% is a massive drop in life, no matter how much his max life is. Tip 4, healing and buffs often come from shops, so my 4th tip is that shops in this game are incredibly strong. So much so that I run the 90% discount implant just so I can buy out the shop. I recommend only going into here if you have 300 exchange points or more, since most of the items in here cost around 150. Here you can find potentials, healing, tactics, and even escape death uses, which I think is the most expensive. As you level up the entropy meter, you can actually get shop rerolls that let you reroll the entire shop, refilling all the slots that you bought out for only 70 exchange points. Of course, all of this is to boost yourself up before taking on your next boss fight. Tip 5 is something that I honestly had to look up myself, and that is breaking boss stances. What I mean by posture break or stance break is when you see the screen crack that happens on a boss and then they get stunned. As far as I know, there's no single mechanic in the game that makes it easier to break boss posture. It's certainly not armor break nor defense break. Instead, it appears that there are specific moments in each boss fight, except for the tree boss for some reason, where stance break can happen. Once you get more used to fighting these bosses, you'll start to watch for these moments in order to maximize your DPS. Here's an example of boss breaks on every boss, except the tree. The final system I want to talk about is literally the options menu. Whether you think you need it or not, I encourage you to hop into the options menu and just see if any of these options would help you. First off, we have camera position. It ranges from 1 to 10. You can zoom in and out to your liking. Keep in mind that there's not a lot of off-screen attack indicators, so if you want to zoom all the way in, be prepared to take damage from off-screen. We have voice audio options. If you don't like to hear all of the Japanese voice lines, you can actually reduce all the character exclamations and only have system sounds. We have damage numbers in here where you can see exactly what kind of DPS you're putting out. There's a global key button that allows you to do some of the more complicated inputs, such as attack plus skill or attack plus grab, by simply holding down the LB button. We have double tap to dash, especially good if you're playing with a fight stick. We have automatic tentacle and automatic radiance, which allows you to just do these summons off cooldown and not have to press a button. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the systems in the game, so let's start talking about playing a character. First off, every character has a passive and an SP generator. So tip number 7, do not confuse SP or MP. MP is used for skills and is gathered over time. SP is used for specific attacks and does not generate passively. Instead, every character has a way to generate SP, and you need to read the tooltip to understand what their specific strategy is. The character passives may also help to teach you their playstyle. When you start collecting Evo types to inherit on your next runs, each character's passive and one ability is given to your character. So for example, Noelle can give her long range damage boost, or you can use Lambda to provide more MP. Another tip, which is a bit more advanced, you probably won't even see this for a long time, is that it's actually possible to unlock a second legacy ability. For example, Noelle's rocket, you can actually change to a different legacy by completing the boss rush in the game. If that's something that you're interested in, let me know and I'll put up a guide for that later. Tip 8, and this one goes without saying, but the most important part of the game are the potentials. Every potential is an enhancement to your current moveset, or it's a straight up new button, and every character has a ton of potentials to choose from. But the actual tip here is to not just grab every potential for the sake of grabbing it. You need to start thinking about what buttons am I gonna be pressing and which ones are gonna be redundant or underpowered. Let's take Taukaka for example. One of her weirdest potentials is her ability to crawl on the ground. Now it's not absolutely worthless, it does have some tech to it, but if your main damage is coming from her skills or her charge attack, you might not ever find a reason to press this button. However, if you do get this potential, keep in mind that every augment to that potential gives you a 20% damage bonus across the board. So even if you aren't using the crawl anymore, if you got an upgrade to the crawl, that is adding 20% bonus damage to all your attacks. So it's not a complete waste. Tip 9, your potentials that give you invincibility are some of the strongest potentials in the game. There are 2 types of invincibility or iframes in the game. The first one is called invulnerability, and that makes it so that your character is undamageable while it's invulnerable. Pretty simple, right? The next step up from that is invincibility, and this is where things get a little spicy, because while you're invincible, you are basically in the dodge state, and any dodge tactics or dodge potentials that you're using will activate if you get hit while in this state. Characters like S and Jin can dominate their run with potentials that grant invincibility. And then finally, we have tip 10. If you made it this far, I hope you found something useful before now. This tip is all about tactics and is something that new players always slip up. First off, keep in mind that you can only have 1 tactic family per slot, and the slots are attack, skill, dodge, legacy, and summon. That's 5. There are no other tactic slots that you can get after these are filled up. And once they're filled up, you will only see the families that you have chosen thus far, which will further complete each slot that you have. Every new tactic has only 2 slots for upgrades before the final double tactic, which is in the red slot. I won't get into details on how to optimize your tactic selections. If that's something you're interested in, let me know and I'll try to make up a guide for tactics. But I don't want you to just chase something that literally cannot spawn. As far as which tactics to choose from, as a new player, you need to be trying all the tactics in the game to really get a feel of each one. And then once you learn what they do, try to use the tactics that work best for your build goals. And that wraps up our guide. Hopefully you found something in here as a new player or even, intermediate player. If you want to see these tips in action, check out some of my gameplay that I'm showing on the screen right now. We even do these live on the Twitch channel. Follow over there, subscribe over here on YouTube, especially if you want to see more roguelite content. I have a couple of character guides up, but not many, so if I get a lot of requests, maybe we can think about doing one. Either way, hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next video.